Am I positioned in the right spot? Do I need to be taller,
Yep,
shorter,
you're
fatter,
you're
broader?
positioned. So chat, please
Oh, hey.
let us know if you can see us.
Ignore that. Don't listen. Sorry, I'm hearing myself in the loop. Hello.
Hi,
Welcome.
are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
All
Because
right,
I heard myself in loop, and that's why I said
I'm
don't
hearing
listen.
myself in the loop.
That's
Got
embarrassing.
it. All
Anyway,
right. Yay! Happy Friday! It happened.
happy Friday. We are live.
Um,
Stream is yes.
I was very inspired by Cowboy Bebop and then was like, I'm gonna pull out my makeup I haven't touched since the beginning of quarantine and play with it because I got crazy hair now. And then just it looks like I'm a goth on camera. So there's an attempt, but it happened and failed.
I'm doing my best. I'm one of the three old men in the first few episodes.
um, yeah, so this is exciting. I don't know if we lost everyone, but we're talking about Cowboy Bebop today, and I feel ruined for all anime now. I don't know why we went to this one, but this is what I was hoping for in
Well,
this.
I mean, so the reason why I chose this anime is because I was like, okay, we should pick something that I think Meg will like. And I did not think through the fact that I would do too good a job, and then this would be peak anime for Meg, from which point there is no equal. Um,
But like in fairness, like I have films I really really love, and like I said, I kind of went through that evolution post like film and animation school. That I'm decided to call it film and animation school because that truly is what my degree is in. But where it was like, okay, there's just certain things that are gems, and this is a gem. It hits everything just so well. There's so many genres mixed in with it. A lot of genres I happen to really really like. And I like started reading about the guy behind it, kind of his career a little bit, inspirations behind Cowboy Bebop to kind of confirm some assumptions I had. Also, really placing then a lot of media of like, okay, was this pre or post Cowboy Bebop? Because there's some things that definitely feel like they're lifted even from like the wormhole in Deep Space Nine, like the specific animation. Yeah, it's been a delight. It's fucking delight. Just love it. Like I can't
yeah,
wait to go back and watch more.
yeah.
Like
So I'm gonna give some background just for those who maybe don't know what Cowboy Bebop is. Cowboy Bebop,
yeah.
an anime from, let me make sure I have the dates right here. 1998. Oh, the original broadcast was all 1998. So, like, if you have seen the previous three episodes, I talk a lot about like what gets made into anime. This is for like a number of rare things about the show. This is an anime original. So like already we're dealing with what is unusual. So like I know we're gonna talk about the pilot and how it's different from what I would consider a normal anime pilot because it is a pilot because this was an anime original and they're like we're gonna sell you on this shit because we need you to watch this show. Like no
I
one
was
knows about
hooked
this
before the
IP.
title card sequence. Let's put it
Okay,
that
there's
way.
that too. So like there's that element. Other reasons why this is a Meg anime is the genre is neo noir and space western,
Yep.
which things you like. So another thing, okay, technically this is listed for the manga, but I think it sort of applies that this was a shojo anime, targeted anime, which is so shonen is like boy, shojo is it was targeted at women. This was an anime made for women.
Oh, interesting. And I didn't look
Yeah.
into the the like if there's that sort of background. I always feel like I'm gonna say it wrong, like manga, right?
You can say manga or manga. I'm not gonna
Manga,
judge you.
manga,
Manga.
manga.
There's like
All
the
right.
Japanese way of saying it, and there's the American way of saying it, and I can't be bothered if enjoy it, right?
Fair. I didn't even look into
Some
that. I
people will
just
like die on a hill about that one, but like I you know
okay. Yeah,
I
that's
think that's
fair.
fine.
But like so a big thing when you're learning to like write a script or tell a story in a visual medium, there's always a phrase of show don't tell. And this is a masterclass in show don't tell. Like
Yeah.
just I captured a few different sequences. I waited to see if we could actually play one with like the screen up. But yeah, I mean, so we can go into episode 1. So episode 1 is the pilot. We're introduced to the characters. Spike, who is the cowboy, aka like bounty hunter. Right? And then
They're
there's
both bounty hunters, but yes.
what?
They're both bounty hunters, but yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was not clear, I guess, but it was kind of clear that I guess then Jet, he is kind of the more like might keep like their shit together. Like he's a little bit more nurturing. He's like, I'm gonna feed you. We gotta like keeps him on track a little bit. Where like Spike is like, I'm Mr. Cool, like. Just...
Well, yeah, so this is an anime for women. So we have the cool guy and we have the dad character.
Got it. So dad character is like a.
I'm kidding, but like he sort of is that. Yeah, he's the dad. He's the dad of the ship, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if like dadness was as much of a thing in 1998.
That I don't know. And that, I mean, there's definitely some inspiration and things that I can identify, but I can't place because it's not Western influence, and I just don't have as extensive a back catalog of just like what would potentially be influential to this. I think some of it I've come to, like, there's a long period of time where I just grouped all violence together and just was like, this is dumb, and I like, what is the point? And then slowly, I think with Quentin Tarantino movies, with like Kill Bill, I started to understand that there could be an artistic element and it can be really choreographed and really cool. And then I think I began to learn a little bit more about just even martial arts being choreographed. There's actually one of my favorite bands, or I should say one of my favorite bands that always really makes or did make amazing music videos is Chemical Brothers. And there's one called Get Yourself High, which they recut 70s kung fu movie to, and that actually really did a lot for my education in a weird way of just appreciating and looking at the medium different. And I see elements of what I would assume, I think it's like Hong Kong action in there, like the guys doing, some, I don't know the different types of martial arts, but he's doing some martial arts in the beginning, Spike is, and that was really cool to see.
Oh, okay, I see what you're going for.
Yeah, and just, but then even the action sequences themselves with both the martial arts and guns and stuff, like, I wish I had more knowledge of movies in that vein and in that style from like maybe like before and right after it to understand how much it took from and influenced. But it just, yeah, I mean, it was really cool. It was cool to see. And like the animation is really pretty animation.
Yeah.
Like it's really fluid.
I know what you're talking about. I think it's like, because it's reminding me of just like an every frame a painting video.
It is. This is 100% an example of that.
Yeah. So like he talks about it and he's like, good action requires you to, like, I'm going to phrase it really poorly. He's basically talking about how is choreographed and like has a stable scene so you can see what's happening. Whereas like a lot of modern action has a lot of cuts to try and make things seem more dramatic. And then also like, the scene doesn't have to make sense. Like there's no sense of place in a lot of modern action where like for it to feel good and choreographed, you really have to see what's happening.
Yeah. And that leads to a great point that like what this show also really did. And I have pictures of this, but like it's really, really good at setting that like the scene and the environment that you're in. And it's done in a really just like artistic way that like I love that shit. So again, it's just like totally my shit. my brain, like it just. I mean, I'm looking kind of at pictures I have to see what I can pull real quick.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'll give a synopsis of episode
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah. We were gonna try. I was like, we gotta
Yeah.
remember to do the synopsis.
Yeah.
So why don't you do
first
that first?
episode, Asteroid Blues. Basically, it's establishing the premise of the show. It is a pilot. It's establishing the two characters as Spike and Jet as bounty hunters who live on a ship together. It starts with them discussing a bounty, and then they chase someone who stole drugs from the local syndicate. Oh, we're spoiling it, right?
Yeah, but that's like
that's about as much as I can say without spoiling it. But basically, like it shows the ensuing like chase through town. God, there's a lot of elements to cover. You're right. There's a lot.
it's a really, this out of the three we watched felt very film noir more than the other ones. In film noir, right? It's like a genre from the 40s. It's like detective a little bit, and it's also very specifically references a lot of lighting. We didn't get classic noir, which is like the
Oh yeah, can you explain noir? Because I have no idea what noir is.
Yeah, let me see if I can like pull an actual definition versus like I feel like we might as well get the real definitions. But classic film noirs like Double Indemnity, and Maltese Falcon, which I have both seen. So actually the range is a little bit bigger than I thought it was. It's the late 20s to the 50s. So film noir is a cinematic term used primarily to describe stylish Hollywood crime dramas, particularly those that emphasize cynical attitudes and sexual motivations. And so like the 40s and 50s were classic period film noir. But so like the girl there's like the dude they're chasing, they know that she's probably with him. Her arc is very film noir, where she's just like, I'm hoping for a better life on Mars. And then her whole sequence, which that's what I took screenshot after screenshot so we can step through it. I have like went to bed thinking about that imagery. Like it was just really, really good. And like her whole ending in that first episode is very just like classic kind of like nihilistic, like, I guess this is it. We've been caught.
Yeah. What you reminded me of, I know about noir, is it's dark tone and things tend to go from like bad to worse as opposed to like getting better. There aren't really. God, are there happy endings in noir?
No.
I was gonna say I think there's no happy endings in noir, but I don't know enough to be like certain.
No, it's bleak.
I think noir is generally bleak. Okay,
it's bleak,
so, like, we have
and that's what's really interesting about this thing. Like I was writing down like different decades and kind of what it's pulling from. So like I have like 40s film noir, which is kind of that bleakness that just like kind of, I think we'll probably see it in characters. I don't know if there's more. I hope there's more. 60s spy genre, right? I think you get that from the opening title sequence. And then a little bit of like the cowboy theme is mixed in as well, but in a way that's like more the look of the cowboy stuff than the actual like renegade. And then
what do you mean? I guess it's sort of like, does being a bounty hunter, like how Cowboy is being a bounty hunter? That's my question.
Sorry, say that again?
How Cowboy is being a bounty hunter?
Yeah, so my knowledge of cowboy TV shows largely stems from my parents who grew up watching the two big ones, which was John Wayne and then Gene Autry. I've seen the movie The Searchers, which is very famously, like, a lot of Star Wars is based on that movie. But it's there's something happening. There's a guy who comes and solves it. And he's like the hero every episode of helping solve these issues. And he's a little bit of an outcast.
Oh God, my brain. I'm catching up. Yeah, there's definitely like the ones where it's like the sheriff, there's like the Lone Ranger. So like it's not a Western per se, and it's definitely not a spaghetti Western. That's just another thing in my brain. But like it's a space cowboy in that it establishes the setting as this is like there's space travel, but it's still very much the Wild West, where it's not something where like there's police readily accessible
No.
everywhere,
Yeah.
and there are people traveling across the universe, or I probably should say galaxy, who have bounties on them essentially, and then they rely on these bounty hunters to track them down. And I think that's really the space cowboy element. So yeah, it's not a space western, it's a space cowboy.
Yeah, but the way like it's presented, and like I said, I kind of confirmed this, that Blade Runner was a huge influence on this. And because when I was kind of talking, like I would always tune off when I saw this coming on Adult Swim, and to me, I assumed it was like 80s, and I
still can't believe you did that.
I know. And it's funny, like that I thought it was an 80s anime. I also don't like Akira was from the 80s, right?
Yeah, I think that one's correct.
So I think I might have been also just like mixing them up. There's some really subpar 80s animation.
Oh, sure. Oh, do you want me to explain that real quick? Or sorry. Akira, okay, Akira we'll get to one day.
Yeah.
But that is a movie. There is like a big part of what made the anime industry is they animated with half the frames. So it looked really janky? Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know if that's what you mean by bad.
So they wouldn't even do tweens?
Huh? Well, so, God, I forget. It's like, this is a factoid that I'm really like trying to pull from my brain. But TV, how many frames was normal TV? Was it 24 or 30?
30. 29.97.
I don't know if
I don't think Japanese
normal American animation did that many. I just know that the early animation did half that many.
Yeah.
Whatever the number was.
Well, most animation, right? It's an A frame and then a B frame, and then there's the tweening of which you like work to blend the two, between the like key moments of like a movement, and so typically like.
I don't know when that became a thing.
From the get-go.
Okay, from the get-go.
I actually like pulled out my film history book the other day and was reading about, because I was like wondering if anime was in it at all, and then I started reading about early animation, and so that's been kind of like the standard.
Okay. If we're gonna believe Sunless, he says it was 24 FPS, but they animated at 12.
Yeah, so 24 FPS is interesting. I mean, and just to get into that from a side, like, so film has been at a couple different frame rates. Like when you see older films, it's like usually 12 frames per second, and then it got like sped up. But then in order to output to television, you have Europe, which is a different standard, North America, which is a different standard. I'm pretty sure Japan is also the same output as us. So even if you animate things at different kind of depth or whatever's happening, it all has to output to one consistent frames per second, and that's what is broadcast. And so when you're doing a lot of conversion from like NTSC to PAL, most people have heard of PAL, that's going from 25 frames per second to 24 frames per second, and film tends to be 24 frames per second still in the theater. TV today with HD, I think, is now like 60
HD.
But it's just doubled. It's doubled the 29.97, and it's usually and then there's like interlaced versus not.
I specifically mean like how many frames they were drawing. Like it's there's like what was it broadcast in, but I mean like they I guess what I'm saying is they intentionally chose to have less fidelity in the animation so they could actually
but not for this one
cheaply.
Not for
this one. Like this is close to modern. I'm talking about like if we go back into like 70s or 80s.
But
anime,
that's
those shows had less.
Frames per second doesn't relate to period in time. It 100% relates to budget.
Okay.
So those
you're right. It's just I don't think many shows try and skimp on how many frames.
So yeah, and again, like Disney wasn't doing 12 frames per second for their films through But for TV, that might have been a different thing. That would be interesting to go back and look up and see what like Warner
Like
Brothers
that's
cartoons
sort
were.
of what I mean, because like Looney Tunes looks good still.
Yeah, but it was also just in theaters to begin with. Like the golden age of Warner Brothers cartoons was pre-television, and it would be like what you would watch before, like you'd have a newsreel or something, then you'd have a short cartoon, then you would like watch whatever your thing was. And so it yeah, like again, I'm more fuzzy on this, but that's why those cartoons also look really good, is they weren't for TV broadcast, they were for movie theaters.
This is Alan says, good anime. So to try and bring it back on topic, we'll have to do a history of animation episode another day. This Relevant was the first anime broadcast on Adult Swim, and yet you chose not to watch it.
Correct. I did
Like,
choose
the first anime ever. Adult Swim's like, we'll try this anime thing. We'll try it with the show, Cowboy Bebop.
I was in a different, so I know you were like, shame your older self, but I will give my older self credit that I was watching a lot of art and older films that other people my age would have turned their nose up at that point. So I was into other deep art veins, if you will, and you can't hit them all at once. But we're coming back to it, so it's okay.
Answering both.
But yeah, so I was saying,
like, I'm trying to remember what was on Adult Swim. I think the reason why I say that, I should clarify, is because the anime that was on Adult Swim when I was old enough to watch Adult Swim without my parents noticing was Cowboy Bebop, Trigun. I want to say there was Inuyasha and like Lupin the Third. And like Cowboy Bebop is the one of those that I'm like, you should watch this show. It's a really good show. The other ones like some we could talk about, but like everyone, Cowboy Bebop is a show that I think non-anime people could enjoy because it's just a good show. Like there's not a lot of anime trappings to Cowboy Bebop. It's just good television.
No, it's great storytelling, like 100%. And again, that's why like I took 1,000 million screenshots. But yeah, so I had written down 40s film noir, 60s spy, 80s Blade Runner, plus punk, right? Like they took the 60s kind of intros and then updated it with like the way they did the font and the text on screen was more, I think, in the 80s vein. And then they took 90s tech at the time. So they definitely,
and sci-fi in general too.
Well, yeah,
right?
But they just,
I don't actually know.
So just from like technology standpoint, like there is a little bit mixed mediums. There are some shots that are in 3D. There's a couple ship shots.
Oh yeah, I see those now, and I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, but like the thing is like I said, like I got into the author and or the director, and I went back and I was reading about him, and he actually did a special animation for Blade Runner 2049, and it's Blade Runner Blackout 2022, and I was watching it, all same fucking tropes, and directors do that, right? Like there's the classic cigarette, there's like really good mixed blending of mediums on top of just like the way that the characters were stylized and portrayed. I didn't get a chance to finish it because I went to go play what I want to say, Among Us with work people for a minute, but I want to go back to it. But no, but the 90s tech also, and I do have one example that I can get into where it was also like, I used to do this when I took my animation classes, you would have a like screen over your cell, and clearly they were actually taking a video camera of some sort, because I don't think non-linear post-production, like Avid might have existed at that point, but if it did, it was not sophisticated. So this was probably done really practical, that in the scene after the guy shoots in the drugs to his eyes, it's kind of like all over the place. That wasn't animated that way. It was actually like a camera was taken and done that. So I thought it was kind of cool that they were doing it, and I'm sure it appeared edgy at the time and very fresh. And the music. The music reminds me of a lot of like quirky late 90s stuff, specifically the soundtrack to the movie Go. There's a movie called like swingers. There was like a subgenre of movies at that time where the specific music that you hear in Cowboy Bebop was very popular to those films, and I happened to have like soundtracks to those films. And so to
I
me,
didn't realize that good music just happened to be in vogue. I just thought that they had good taste.
no, they did it very well, but it was a callback for me in the late 90s listening to that stuff. Like that's when I got into a song like by Bobby Darin, and like it was a little bit after, but Catch Me If You Can came out in 2002. I looked it up, which is a Spielberg movie that's set in the 60s. And so, and like you also had at that point some bands covering, like I really like the composer Henry Mancini. He did Blue Moon, he did Charade, which I had linked in Discord earlier, and you had like modern bands in the late 90s covering those songs. But I love the music. The music, it still works 100%.
Yeah. The music's great. And it's one of, because I want to say, did this director also do Samurai Champloo?
I didn't look up his full catalog.
Well, okay, so maybe one day we'll get to Samurai Champloo, and I want to say it has like dramatic carryovers because it's the same director. Yes. Yes, he did Samurai Champloo. Yeah, Samurai Champloo is also good. I can briefly, the storytelling is very, I shouldn't say very different. The storytelling is different, but there's still very much like this integration of musical elements into like the scene and the narrative in a way that most anime do not do, because we didn't really get into like how the breakdown of the individual scenes are. Like it's very sort of episodic, which is sort of a non-anime thing we can talk about more later, where it's like it opens, they establish someone's wanted, there's like the investigation phase, it goes into like a chase fight scene with the music, and then like there's closure is sort of the rough structure. Did I miss anything major?
Yeah, no, there's kind of a tell. I don't know how long it will continue to be established. But Spike, when he's about to get into mischief, grins. He grins right before you're going to go into like a chase scene typically. So you have this from the opening, which it was really interesting, right? Like you see the sky, it's raining. They like purposely put the film grain on it, or like animated film grain. It goes from black and white to color. And then he like there's all these shootouts and stuff, and you see blood, and then he grins. And then it kicks into the music, and then later in the episode you've got this when he's about to get into a shootout with the guy he's been chasing, and it's just like a quick like, all right, let's go, buddy. Like, and it's just delightful. It's
that
just
was an interesting choice. He chooses to shoot the vial, but then goes into a fist fight, like sheaths the gun. That was
I mean, but like it's like this weird definition of just like cool, where
because he's trying to be a cool
arigato,
character.
by
Cool
the way,
cucumber.
to our like I guess Japanese viewer.
Yeah, thank you for watching.
Yeah.
But I would have to translate what you said. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, unless Nick wants to start typing it in chat or something.
Speaking of, like, we didn't address, someone asked earlier, subs or dubs.
Oh, right. So subs or dubs. So I prefer to watch in subtitles. However, it seemed like there's a lot of nostalgia factor from a lot of people who watched on anime, or not Anime Swim, Adult Swim.
Anime Swim. That's how it should be remembered.
So I watched the first 2 episodes with subtitles. Then I got into the 3rd episode and was like, oh yeah, I thought I would watch one dubbed. So I switched midway through. And then I went back and started to rewatch episode 1 as well with the voices. I thought I was going to do that, but then Funimation is crap, and it's easier to switch it on my TV languages than the browser. So I did a mix of both.
Yeah. I watched the first one in English, then I watched it in Japanese, watched the second one in Japanese, and the third one, for some reason, Funimation decided to switch back to English. and then halfway through I realized it was in English, and then switched back to Japanese. Which is to say, when I watched,
So we both kind of did
as
halfsies.
yeah, when I watched it as a kid on Adult Swim, I watched it in English because that's what happens when you're young and don't know any better. I'm exaggerating, but I watched this in full Japanese, I think at some point years ago. But I would say that of the main cast, the voice actors are good both in the sub and the dub. It does not have what I usually avoid dubs for, and that I don't typically like English voice actors. For the main characters, what I will still stand by is that having rewatched at least the whole first episode in both languages, they do in the dub take some liberty with jokes and stuff, which is sort of fine. And then the main difference for me was the background and extra characters, I think, are still voiced better in the sub. The woman in the sub, the woman in the first episode, I thought was much better voiced and sounded much more natural in the sub than the dub.
Yeah, so what was interesting to me, and I wasn't sure, because they're in Tijuana, and there's kind of this
they're in Tijuana, right? Is it really Tijuana?
They say Tijuana, and there's a bunch of
but it's space Tijuana,
Mexican references. I wasn't sure, I don't know, but
okay.
I did hear in the dub version more of Mexican accents, as we recognize them as English speakers. And what I wasn't sure if that was also happening with Japanese.
Yeah, I thought they were in a ring world too.
Speakers having an accent that I can't detect because I just hear Japanese. Does that make sense? So that was one thing I guessed.
I would also say though that I think in the third episode, it opens with Faye in the medicine shop, the Chinese medicine shop.
Yeah.
There's a few Chinese characters, or more Chinese-esque characters, and I think they're also better in the sub. So depending on the cultural context, the dub or sub might have better. Yeah, that makes sense, right?
Yeah. But anyhow, I mean, let's just also talk about the other stuff I really loved about this. Again, was just really exploring the space, just again from a master class and doing stuff. So if I go back to the photos, this was just a gorgeous shot, because in film and animation, and even more so animation, everything that's on screen is effectively a choice, and it's a choice whether or not it's a big deal. If you're just trying to move a story around, along, right? When we were watching Uzaki-chan, the backgrounds were just the background, and it was just simply there to allow the two characters to interact, and it was very secondary. Whereas the background and worlds in this are very much a character, or very much it's an important part of bringing you into the world and really getting you there. And that makes sense, because Uzaki-chan, I guess, as you were saying, is slice of life, and that's not important, right? It was getting those two characters into situations where they could interact and things could happen. Whereas here, it's I'm taking you space.
It's a combination of things. So there's the slice of life element, and I think a lot of slice of life or other type of anime do get produced because they're cheaper to produce, because, as someone said, you can have a static background. God. We'll get there. There's some anime where they don't even animate the background characters. They might just use
but there's shots in here too.
Soulless people. No, I'm getting there. I'm saying you can really lower the bar using that kind of mechanism. The big intentional choice difference here is that this is an anime original as opposed to a manga. Because when you're adapting a manga, you're it's the same as taking a comic book or a web comic or something, right? And it's there's just not as much of the world is established, and you're okay, what could have been a 10-second animation is 3 panels, right?
Yeah.
And how you choose to embellish that is just going to be really different.
Yeah, so here they are jumping, I guess, into one of the ring worlds, and then even this shot of when we're just meeting them and they're on the couch, this shot is great in a way because it continues to help you explore the space and the ship and get to know the ship. So as much as like this scene is about getting to start to know them and their relationship and who they are, we're also as a viewer treated to like this is also the space in which they operate and are in.
Yeah. There's a reason why I wanted so for viewers, Meg already knows this because we talked about it. I wanted our backdrop to be the couch, but I couldn't find a good shot of the couch.
Yeah.
That is like the family element of this show. Whereas it revolves around the characters on the ship together, and like the communal part of the ship is this room on the couch.
Apparently Nick's just talking about learning Japanese with our viewer, which is fine.
Yeah. Who's allegedly also not Japanese, but that's like from the peanut gallery, so take it or leave it.
So anyhow, I love the going through the rings. I love the way it's treated. I mean, I'm sure it will become lesser and just like understood, but the introduction of doing that's really cool.
I don't think it will. It'll only get better.
Well, then good.
Sorry, you shouldn't say better, but like
it helps introduce where they're going, which is cool.
Yeah,
it's a story element.
The reason why is like it was an anime original. It's called Cowboy Bebop. They're like, I can pull from all these interesting things, and like 1998 was such a cooler time for sci-fi, right? Like Web 2.0 didn't exist yet. Social media and dystopian stuff was not like the name of the game, and like it still felt like people were going to go to space in a cool way, not like I'm a billionaire and I want to put my rocket on the moon.
This wormhole thing or this animation around the rings is very reminiscent of Deep Space Nine, which did predate Cowboy Bebop. But it's still cool. Yeah. Like, I'm not mad at it.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is like it was still not that this came up with the stuff, because I agree, like a lot of it's borrowed, like a ring world and like a space gateway, and like a lot of these things aren't original ideas, but they're still cool at the time. Like they were fun to play with. Yeah. They were still fresh.
No, it just.
And now if you put this stuff in a show, people be like, okay, cool, whatever. They're in space. Roll eyes. Like I don't know if you could make it as engaging.
No, so I think that some of these things were still tropes. They were still happening. Stargate was out at this point. Deep Space Nine was out at this point. And that was actually a point, to skip a little bit ahead to episode 3, where it's kind of a casino movies had been done. Casino plots have been done at that point. This is even like it's pre-Ocean's 11, but still you'd had these movies already out there and these scenes, especially like in James Bond films. And that's what's so brilliant is he just threads this, like, the creator threads an amazing line of this show has every right to be cheesy, but it's not. And he does it in very subtle and careful ways that's just really, really good and still engaging. And that's why it's like so good, is because he's using a bunch of stuff from other people and really creating it his own and putting his own stamp on it.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to
just like, it's jazz.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know how much you get the reference, right? Like that is what jazz and improv is about. Like,
and bebop is a type of jazz, right?
Bebop is a type of jazz. Like you incorporate elements all the time into improvisation, right? Like everything's a remix of a remix of a remix kind of vibe. Like like that is. Do you like jazz? Oh my god! All right.
So
should we talk about the episodes though, and then we can like should we talk about the episodes before we talk about the show in general? Are we still talking about episode 1?
I mean, I have the whole sequence I want to go through that's just fucking gorgeous.
Okay, go for it. Why don't you just this will be the Meg Celebrates Anime episode, and then every episode after this might be a little sadder because it won't be exciting.
So no, every episode has had an amazing sequence thus far. Granted, we're 3 for 3. But so this whole
Can you
sequence.
make it a little bigger?
What? What'd you say?
Or is that the size of the image? I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're trying to keep us on the screen. Okay, I get it. Keep going. I got it.
Okay. Oh, maybe I can actually. There we go. He's a little off now though. Okay, so
you can cover me up. No one wants to see me anyway.
The end of, all right, we'll keep it big. The end of this episode, right? They've been chasing this guy. He's high on drugs. She's like, I want to go to Mars. Right? This total film noir ending, but just incredibly, it's like, I don't know, 15 seconds at max, and the shot for shot, it's just like, it's just beautiful and cinematic. So we go from like this one where she's like starting to realize he's very animated at this point and crazy, and it just starts zooming in on her face, and she's not animated at all at this point, so it starts zooming in on her face. We go to,
Yeah, they did the pan, and I'm like, this is some movie. I'm sorry, this is some cinema
yeah.
shit.
So they do the there's the gunshot, then it goes a nice cut on in of his face, and typically in film language, an askew face like this means the character, like, subtly, it typically conveys like they're confused or disoriented, they're not sure what has happened. So then we go to like an establishing shot again, where it's like, okay, like, let's like zoom back out, what's kind of happening, can we see anything? And then it goes, we cut back to her face, which is also askew, but her eyes seem much more decided at this point. We go back to his point of view. We can now see that the shot has come from somewhere. And as we start to pan in, we see that it's like, we get a brief glimpse that it's her hand holding the gun. There's blood on his head. It goes back right to Spike. And at this point, it's clear that they've locked eyes. She's been like, yep, this is what had to be done, right? Like, this is the very film noir point of this. Back to him. He's like understanding that they've now locked eyes. And then just this like adios. It's just like a masterclass again in that like cool, like that's a very thing to be cheesy, and it's not. Back outside, the ship gets shot up, and then we're really at like kind of from his point of view, we're understanding as he does, and then to just like this gorgeous shot. It's been done a bunch of different ways. I mean, I kept thinking of the movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this is where like my brain doesn't work. But yeah, please explain.
No, it's just the whole sequence is gorgeous, right? There's two like basically two things uttered, like, we can't keep running like this, and then it's a matter of just building the shots together and her saying goodbye, because she knows like she didn't want the guy to do anything crazy, so she shoots him. But it's just a really masterclass in subtleness, but still telling the whole story of what happened. And then this is just gorgeous. It doesn't have to be. They didn't have to animate it this way. They didn't have to put this like camera here, but it then just becomes this, spilling out of everything. And it just, this shot in particular really is stuck with me.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. I didn't interpret it that way. One element of what you said specifically, and this is why I'm a small Paul brain. So for people who didn't get to actually see this for some reason, you should just go watch the anime and don't listen to us. But if you're still here for some reason, like, they're trying to escape, and they're basically facing down what is the police essentially, and about to fly into them, and like there's no way to go, and she chooses to shoot her boyfriend, only to then be gunned down by the police anyway. So to me, I was like, I thought she was trying to put him out of his misery, but for you to say it's to prevent him from doing anything crazy is interesting, because I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, that was my take, that she was just like, I need a fucking, like, we're not getting out, and I need to just end this madness, and we're ending it here, and I'm going out on my own terms. He's out of his brain. Okay. And I think that that's what that zoom in is about on her, is she's just like thinking it through and being like, I don't have a lot of options, I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
And then the final shot from episode 1 I really just loved was a cigarette floating through space, and just this cool side shot of he's just picking it up, and it's just like, all right, cool. Like, in a non, like, cheesy way, like, we use cool. So, it's just, it's commonplace. You don't think about like just, I think the essence of what that word really is supposed to convey and mean, but like he's cool. And it's all like their whole thing. And like that was even for me established early on when he was leaving to go down to the planet. And they're doing their whole conversation as he's just like getting in his spaceship and just kind of going about his business. And it's very casual, but still very cool.
So what you're saying is it's working. That's what I'm picking up here.
What?
Oh god, sorry. This is like me making a joke. You're like, oh man, he's just so cool. He's cool, and I'm like, okay, so like they hit their demographic correctly. You think he's cool?
Got it. No, it's like, but like cinemat, like, and then I have like another sequence from.
It's well done, right? Like, yeah, I get what you're saying. Oh, why did it bother you, Sunless? You should say, and we'll maybe get back to you.
What?
Because I think he's supposed to be standing. Yeah, it's sort of unclear how the cigarette floats, but he stayed in place, but I wasn't going to think it through that much.
But I just took it as like a gravity, I don't know. It was a nice shot. But yeah, so that was...
Maybe because they spin in a circle, and that's how the gravity works, so like really it wasn't... Because there is that scene in the third episode where like Faye is escaping and then there's Ein and like they're in a circle that's spinning thing. So it might be like he was still staying in place, but like the cigarette technically was like stationary as like the ship was spinning and whatever.
That's the other thing I actually forgot from my notes. I was on the wrong page. Is that while that whole sequence was happening, there was like this lonesome jazz that was playing, which is I think why I also interpreted her. So what?
Sorry, I just said the music's really good. Continue.
Yeah, no, it was really good. And that actually made me pull up the definition of mise en scène, so we could talk about that term. Do you know that term?
I feel like I heard mise en place, not mise en scène. But I'm a dummy, so I could just be thinking of the wrong thing.
Yeah, they're more or less the same. So mise en scène, right, was like a term I learned going through school, which it's like it's a French term and it means like everything is in its place. And
that.
Yeah, and what I had forgotten, in all fairness, was that there's supposedly very specific elements. Like one thing says there's 5 specific elements. Wikipedia lists more, but I think sometimes what people don't realize about film and animation is it's a confluence of several arts within one art to make a whole picture. And so a lot of people, right, they'll go watch a movie if they don't like have much experience or leaning into this, and like they will only review it on the plot. Did the plot make sense? Was it good? Right? But like what I went through for 4 years was you look at the lighting, you look at the sound, you look at the soundtrack, the costumes, the scenery, right? The camera angles, how things are said. Does the plot make sense, right? Like it's really a combination of all of these things that ultimately end up with like the final product. And so for me, like, right, if you think about the Academy Awards, that's why there's so many sub categories, and some films only really, or like even animations only really execute on 1 or 2 of like 10 categories really well. And that's why I think you'll see things that it's like, okay, the costumes for this got animated, story was fine, everything else, it was good, but it wasn't outstanding, but the costumes were outstanding. And so in my opinion, all Best Picture should, execute 10 out of 10 on all of those. But so mise en scène is kind of a way of also being like, if you pause, it's framed up well. And then it goes into like what the set design is, right? In this case, what was chosen to be animated, what's the lighting, the direction, what we understand from it, the space, how people are in it, the depth, as well as just like where they are, the composition of it, the costumes, makeup, hair, and style, the acting within it. And then this goes into film stock and aspect ratio, which for our purposes, we could say frames per second, I guess. And right, aspect ratio.
The keyframes. I don't know what that means, but keyframes is the important thing.
Film stock would be film stock in this sense, the better relationship is frames per second. Because film stock is you make different choices with film if you want a grainy look, if you want a really sharp look, because film can be exposed at different f-stops effectively, and that will
yeah. I know what
yeah.
F-stop, that's the word I've heard about cameras.
So, like, when I talk about mise-en-scène, it's just kind of like, does all the shit look like it's together on top of the story and how it's being acted? And so, yeah, just like that whole sequence was just like, whoa, that's so good. And to your point, you were telling me earlier that I guess the director had some quote of being like he wanted each of these to be standalone movies. Yes. And I'm really
sorry I'm boring. I just like occasionally will read the Wikipedia page, and Cowboy Bebop's Watanabe first project as solo director. He had been a co-director in previous works. I think he had done some movies, so like he wasn't just doing normal. His original concept was for a movie, and during production he treated each episode as a miniature movie.
Yeah. And I think that there's like a key, it feels like, and I'm really curious to see if this continues, like if there's a key sequence of each of these movies that like he gives that breath on screen to have that like fun cinematic moment, because again, it's a choice. And like I have an example pulled up as well from episode 2, and then I was going to try and play just a sequence I really liked from episode 3. I don't know, it's hard. Like I had a hard time getting my brain together because I just liked it so much.
You're like, this is all so good. What do I talk about?
I don't know if this is interesting to people in the audience of me going into detail about these shots and stuff, but like that's how like when I watch something and it's really engaging to me, that is what my brain is doing. I am breaking down the shots. I'm breaking down all of the elements of mise-en-scène. And, like, I can watch anything. Like, I will suffer through stuff that has the worst plot. And if I'm really bored out of my mind what's going on, I will watch all the other elements on screen.
Yeah. No, this is good. This is just going to be very different than I think. It's very different than, obviously, the first anime we watched.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be very different than the other anime we end up watching. And, like, again, this is just me being like, this is a very different anime in that it doesn't have a lot of, like, tropes. Like there's not going to be, I don't actually remember, I don't think there's a beach episode here, right? There's no panty shot, there's none of like I guess Faye Valentine maybe she's kind of fan service. Okay, sure. But like otherwise, like this is just trying to be good media, good television technically, and it's animated. It just happens to be animated, and there are anime that are that.
And I unfortunately,
like if you were like, how do I get my normie friend to watch some anime with me, this is an option. Cowboy Bebop. By all means, be like, hey, I have this really great sci-fi show we should watch together, and then just put it on and hope that they shut up.
I mean, I unfortunately have like one of my best friends since like middle school, and she just refuses to watch any animated anything, and it drives me fucking bananas. And I like, and it's funny because she actually has her degree in museums and art, and she works at a Smithsonian in DC. And I'm like, how do you work in art? And I cannot convey to you that like animation is still like a respectable, like it's not just kid stuff. Like it's an incredible medium. But anyhow, I digress.
I get what she's saying. I mean, I shouldn't say. I can understand the argument that a lot of anime is not trying to be like, there's definitely like the high point. Like this, in terms of like what it shows and the scenes and all the stuff you talked about, is in a class of its own. There's other anime that are just like so beautiful and well animated that like you have to talk to someone about it. And like then there's the remaining 80 to 95% of the industry, and like they're not there's like the bottom of the barrel, some stuff that looks really bad, but a lot of stuff is just trying to look good enough, right? Like,
which is fine, because the point is not to be that, right? And that's what I was trying to like say, is like not everything is like worth talking about how they laid out a scene, because it's there as serviceable to plot and other elements that are happening. And I think right, and I appreciate that. I just feel very lucky to have experienced this as the next one. And like I said, I got really like inspired by it, and like I know I need to like go, like I keep talking about like I haven't gone back to Avatar The Last Airbender because I want to be able to truly savor it, give it my full attention. And it's cute. I still wouldn't put it on this level. And what's even funny is like as much as like an established Star Wars fan as I am, like I've really struggled through The Mandalorian. I feel like the show is oftentimes more vibe than show, and it's like cool hanging out with bounty hunter that's Mandalorian, and people just think they look fucking cool. And like the first 3 episodes of Bebop, I was like, this shit's better than season 1 of The Mandalorian. Mandalorian just finally picked up, but like to me, like this is just, it's like that good, even for someone who will watch anything that Star Wars puts out.
It's a perfect storm scenario, right? Like, it happened to be the right combination of talent and ideas at the right time. And if like they tried to bring it back and Netflix was like, hey, can you make another season of this? Like, there's no guarantee it would be this good. Right?
Oh yeah.
Like that's sort of what I'm getting at. And like, God, do I want to float this idea before we talk about the other episodes? Part of me feels like, oh, we'll talk about it. You can sell me on why we should watch more episodes of this to discuss, because for me, there is not more learnings of like anime or anime tropes to be had in watching the remaining 26 episodes, or sorry, the remaining 23, because I think it's 26 total.
I'm watching this regardless of what we do
show.
next.
That's kind of what I'm saying. This is absolutely a good show. You should watch all of it. You should watch the movie. It is totally worth your time. We'll get into episodes 2 and 3. Like, a lot of the episodes end up being because they're all, as I said before, they're supposed to be self-contained mini movies. It doesn't have some of what I want out of watching an anime, which is like the character arc. Like, some of the characters will develop and we'll learn more about their backstory. There's a few 2-part episodes. But it is not going to be, God, I guess they sort of went nowhere in Uzaki, so it's a bad example. But other anime usually have some type of like hero's journey or something happening where like a character develops and overcomes. Whereas like Cowboy Bebop, it's just space cowboy noir all day, every episode. Every episode is like, there's a bounty. Let's go and get the bounty, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's fine. I mean, yeah, and like my preference, frankly, would probably be to hit up another show for like discussion purposes, because I can probably just keep on loving on this show or being like, okay, yeah, it was like pretty good, but I enjoy like experiencing different types, so I'd be more open to watching a completely different one for next time. And then I'll just like savor this as I want to over break. But I mean, I would still love to break down some of the other shot sequences I really liked.
Should we get into 2?
What?
Or do you have more for 1? Should we get
for
into
2?
episode 2?
Yeah, I only, and this is all I captured. I captured one random shot to just be like, this is great composure, like good mise en scène.
So
you have to shake your fists when you're like cinema mise en scène.
Okay,
that's how it works.
Episode 2, Stray Dog Strut. This adds an additional character to the cast, Ein. He is a corgi. Premise is the bounty this time is a exotic animal thief? Dealer? I guess he's a thief. Whatever. An animal was stolen. A guy gets like a face transplant to try and hunt him down through a town. I don't know if it specifies. They might be back on Mars? No, I think that's the casino. Anyway, hijinks ensues and they end up getting a corgi, which is what everyone wants in life. So
yeah.
continue.
So Nick, was your corgi? Please explain your influence from corgi in the show. Thank you. Tell us in the comments. So yeah, I wrote dog in big capitals. And yeah, just like it was cool. Oh, like we got to see the show for the first time. That there's like this like, you know, bulletin board, if you will, of like, here's who's up. Like, go get 'em, guy. Like, go get 'em, Cowboys. I kind of like that element. But yeah, the sequence I really liked.
It speaks to the time again too, where like the way you find out about bounties isn't like going on the internet or checking social media. It's you watch a television show where these two bounty characters get up and they're like, "Hey, here's a bounty. Let's talk about it. Here's the news."
So that actually reminded me a lot of Blade Runner, where you had these moments in Blade Runner where the world is very gritty and kind of dark, and then there's something really bright, flashy, and poppy. And that's kind of I felt the Cowboy show, or what is it called, Big Shot, felt actually very Blade Runner to me, in a way.
Okay.
Also, cowboy culture was in
elements, and there will be more.
Yeah, cowboy culture was also in the late 90s.
Okay. I mean, I'm sure if you go to the right parts of probably Japan and the US, cowboy culture is still in style.
Sure. But like Madonna put out a song where like she was dancing, like it's a good song though. And then but so let me show.
I don't listen to country music, but I think it's still a big deal.
Yeah. So I loved this sequence in the pet shop where we have the guy who has the corgi. He's bringing it to this pet shop owner. And it's just a lovely sequence because, again, this is a total choice of, like, a cool way to tell the story. So it's exploring the space. He's kind of like, cool, like, what's in this fish tank? He, bends down, takes a look at it.
Is it a fish tank or a lizard cage?
What?
I don't remember. Oh, I guess it's still a fish tank.
Yeah.
God, that's weird. Sorry, continue.
So he's like looking.
Oh, there's a fish. All right.
And there's a big fish that swims by, and then of course it pops up with their boy,
Bam,
Spike,
yeah.
And he's like, "What's up?" I mean, you can literally see this happen in cinema. Like it's not a far stretch at all to see this transition from animation to live action. And so then guys like, well, fuck. And then just the like cute like, hey man, let's talk. And then straight to like gun in face. Like it was just a delightful little sequence. And then again when they're chasing and then again like exploring the face again, we're like with this shot, but it's like a little bit cooler, right? Like it's through the bird cage and the netting and wires and stuff. And then I feel like I lose you when I start talking about this stuff, and then you just go to chat. You're like, Meg's talking about boring film stuff.
Well, no, I know what happened in the Okay.
And then
could you I guess what should I be thinking about as I'm seeing these scenes?
So what stand out again is the choices in what they're showing, and right like. What had to be conveyed there was that Spike caught up with this guy at the pet store, right? So if it was way more straightforward, it would have been Spike coming up on him in the shop and then maybe going straight into the like, hey, you've got this package I want or whatever, right? It did not have to be done in this way that is kind of playful. It's fun. You're, getting a better taste of everything, right? So then we go to this high level shot.
There's a reason why I'd rather watch this than Marvel films.
Sure, yeah, Marvel. No, I can understand that. Marvel's not meant for this sort of stuff. And frankly,
Marvel's like cut to person talking, cut to person talking, cut to person talking. I'm kidding.
Well, and like, yeah. And so then, like, also this lady has the same coloring as Joker, and she has a delightful turtle on her head.
Oh, she's great. Hey. I realize why I look at chat when you start talking. It's because the way it's set up is I have the stream on over in this window, and as I pan to look at it, I look at chat.
Oh, fair enough. But yeah, so then it was delightful, right? Like it just, again, it was a deliberate choice by the director, and it's nice. It makes things more enjoyable. And then this is a great mise-en-scène. Just every shot is a painting, right? Great in depth. And it was actually amazing to me that every time I stopped, like, things just were always in frame. It was interesting, and it just, there's a lot of stuff that's not like that. A lot of stuff's just hot garbage.
Yep.
Oh, and I really like this part when the guy was, like, coming up like he was, like, a monster that the kids had fished out. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's it for what I took. And then I just had like
There's not
queued
enough
up.
photos of the dog. I'm kind of upset.
No, I didn't take any. Oh, did I close the window? Fuck.
Can't believe she done this. Sorry, chat. I know you wanted to see the corgi.
I mean, the corgi is adorable. Don't get me wrong. I'm very excited to like. It's a smart corgi. I'm excited to see where that goes. But as long as we're on scenes, I'll just play the one from scene. Like, well, there was
a data dog.
What?
I don't know what that means. I forget what data dog means.
I don't know. I just remember they're like, he's super smart. And then episode 3, there's 2 sequences I really loved. One is when he's first sitting down to play poker, and the other is when he jumps from ship to ship and they do the exchange. That's also executed really well. Let's see if I can actually play this and how choppy it comes
I'm getting what you're putting down. Or sorry, I'm picking up what you're putting down now.
So I really liked this casino scene where again Spike shows up and just when he sits down to play, it's a really nice like shot by shot telling a story. It's showing us the story without telling it to us. And also this samurai film, I didn't know enough to recognize if this was like after something that was a classic in Japan, so that was kind of interesting to me. But yeah, when he sits down here,
I can say nothing about that.
And he's like, all right, I'm gonna play some. And so she obviously there's the mix up that's unintentional. But like that sequence of like he's just staring at her, the like hit me, the money, like there's no words being said. It's real nice.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. So it's the non-dialogue sequences that still do very effective storytelling through interesting shot choice and balance and composition. Okay. Yeah.
So I like so when I first started in school, we had to shoot a 16mm film, no sound. And so like our first lessons were learning how to tell visual stories without any audio. And so kind of the classic thing is a really, really well composed film you should be able to mute and still understand what's happening. And that's kind of like the bar of what you're dealing with kind of based on that. And again, not everything strives to be that, and that's fine. And I enjoy plenty of things that are not that. But just like kind of taking it a level deeper of just like what I'm also looking at. And so it can be really interesting to go back and watch things you really love and turn the sound off and just like also see how it hits you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think about why, like, I don't have enough industry knowledge, obviously, about why, like my one suspicion is that a lot of this is expensive.
Yeah.
And that's why it's probably not done as much, right? Like, telling seems probably cheaper than like we're gonna do a nice really great sequence of shots. And then the other part is just that I think a lot of what modern anime isn't like sequences of action as much. I mean, we're probably gonna watch an action anime yet, and we can have a discussion later, and then you can tell me whether or not I'm right or wrong about that. But like, you're not gonna get moe or like cuteness kind of as much from like what this is trying to do, I guess.
It adds drama, and I think that's like another element that the guy's mixing in. But again, to like compare and contrast to Uzuki-chan Wants to Hang Out, or Zuki-chan, is that's all about just like the tension between the two. And I don't think you're gonna like there's some times in which tension is added, but like that's like candy. It's fun to just like watch and enjoy. And it's I don't think it hypes itself. Like, it knows exactly what it is, and it doesn't pretend to be anything more, right? And that's fine.
Fair.
And like I think if it was trying to be a really cute love story or something, like those nonverbal sequences ramp up the just whatever kind of emotion that you're trying to convey. And I don't think Azuki-chan is like trying to be like over the head with any one single emotion.
Sure.
Like the closest we get there is when the scene when she was in the cafeteria and he said he had a friend coming to eat with him and she's just like incessant about her phone. And we do get a lot of text on screen, but like that scene is amped up simply because the two main characters are not talking to each other. And then it helps convey like she's just being really annoying and being a pest and just like constantly on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like, yeah, so in Uzaki-chan specifically, there's not as much visual storytelling, that's fine. I'm trying to think of like rom-com scenarios that have done a lot of lifting with visual storytelling, and I'm having trouble. Like, I'm not even anime, just like in general. And the only thing I can really think of is like the one boombox scene that I actually haven't seen in the real movie. You know what I'm talking about? Where like the guy does something stupid or whatever, and he wants to apologize or like make up with her, so he like goes to her place and stands outside with a boombox.
Sorry, I refreshed Funimation and it was like, let me undo all of your settings, like having it on mute. So sorry, say that again. Oh, you're talking about the 80s film with John Cusack.
See, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That was confusing.
I was like, that doesn't happen in Uzaki-chan. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no, I'm talking about non-Uzaki-chan. When are examples of romance or rom-coms doing a lot with visual storytelling? Like, I'm wondering if it's just something that doesn't work as well for the medium, or
so like,
is it just that people
I
are
would
lazy?
say you don't have sequences like you do in something like this, unless it's like they're like eyeing each other from like across the room and it's the build up to them like coming to talk to each other. I think rom-coms lean way more into montages than anything else, or they will use nonverbal scenes as this is a time to do crazy dramatic comedy and awkwardness, but that's really more of an action scene, I would probably argue. But
yeah.
it's not that nonverbal scenes don't exist in those, like in any type of movie, but or just like TV, right? But it's there's a choice in when you choose to use it and how you're using it.
Of course, yeah.
I just love it. It's real good.
Yeah, no, it's great, and yeah, it works really great for this type of show.
I was trying to go back and find like when they first go into the casino. There's a bunch of like a tilt, right, is when the camera goes up and down, and then a pan is left to right. And there's some sequences in there where like no one's animated. Like what is animated is the camera movement, but what's on frame is not animated at all, if that makes sense. And those are definitely like cost-cutting corners for this show but it didn't like stand out horribly. But it was just more like, oh, I know what they're doing here, if that makes sense.
I'm trying to remember. This might just be my brain making stuff up. Was it going for like this is a security camera watching them in the elevator thing, or no?
Here, I think I'm at. Let me put the screen back up. So this is they're just exiting the elevator, and I mean it makes sense unless you only have a few elements that are animated. I think I was only bringing it up to say that that's not expensive stuff does that too, like where you will rely on like, okay, yeah, you're right, it was kind of the security footage of just like there's a couple things that are animated and then stuff that's not.
Yeah. Oh, one thing we also didn't talk about. Sorry, I'm sorry I keep coming back to this. It's because I have to look for it. Because in Uzaki-chan, you were very perturbed by the lack of like cut to commercial.
Yeah,
inserts,
this one they actually
Cowboy
had
Bebop
like
they
have
has
screens.
the actual thing.
Yeah.
They have screens. Okay, I'll take your word that that's the technical term. I don't know what it's called.
I mean, it's intro outro of like the, I don't know, like Fade to Black.
I guess what I'm saying, I don't know if there's an industry term for it. It's something that like was very common in older anime, and I see less and less in new anime. I still see it, but very rarely. And like my brain completely doesn't notice when it does those jumps without them now. unless I look for them, because I
So-
did start noticing them when I was watching Uzaki-chan and some other things, but like it's only because I'm looking for it now. Like,
Yeah,
my
that's
brain
so
has
that's the
stopped.
problem is after your brain gets trained to see this shit, it's hard to not see it. But in all fairness,
okay.
like Uzaki-chan too, it was really like I kept looking for it, and it was one episode that was really bad for me. The rest of it, they actually got better at just like, we're going to a new sequence now and a new scene and stuff. And there was just one episode that I felt like as I described it, felt like a run-on sentence. But this was like, okay, Cowboy Bebop screen, got it.
Yeah, Cowboy Bebop, old-fashioned. Here's the screen.
Yeah.
Cut to commercial. Cut out of commercial. I think there was a sound effect.
Yeah.
Gunshot.
But
Something.
yeah, what a treat. What a delightful treat. Very excited to experience it. I mean, beyond me getting dressed up, like reading about the guy, some influences, going and finding something else of his to watch. I even texted my friend from film school who is an animator who's worked at like DreamWorks and Disney and stuff, and was like, have you seen this? And he's like, no, I've always meant to, right? Like, he has a bookshelf full of like everything.
Wait, what? Oh my god, that hurts a little.
But
Okay.
again, in all fairness, like there's shit that we have seen that's so far down rabbit holes of like art or stop motion. Like I've seen Czechoslovakian stop motion films, like put it that way, right? There's so much when you get into these genres. So I gave him the like, you should put it on your list, Bill.
Yeah, he should do that. So I saw Kat mention it earlier about how I think this isn't normal anime because it doesn't have character arcs and each episode is kind of self-contained. And I sort of want to return to that as an idea and an element. Specifically to say that, like, how do you feel about that as a choice? Like, which do you prefer? Do you have a preference?
I don't care as long as the show executes on whatever its choice is well. Like, and I think probably that's a little bit true maybe
You can
to
like both, but if you had to pick one.
Again, it's too, like...
Okay. You can have a non-preference. It's fine.
Right, like Game of Thrones is set up completely different than, like, Star Trek. Like The Next Generation. There is some character growth in Star Trek The Next Generation, but... And maybe...
Data has lots of character growth, okay?
I think maybe actually a better comparison would actually be to, like, cowboy films and spaghetti westerns, where it's just, like, this guy good, this guy bad, go. And this is a scenario this week. And so that seems like... What you're telling me the show continues to be.
It's something where... like, because I vaguely remember this, right? Like, there's I'm gonna say over half of the episodes are this, where it's like intro, whatever, yeah, where it's like intro the bounty, track down some information, explore a new space, some kind of like hijinks ensues, and like it wraps up somehow, and it gets to explore some cool concepts, and like all that stuff's great, and then there's like, I think, 1 or 2 episodes probably for each of the main characters. It's like one of those things where, like, they build the cast, right? Like, Faye becomes part of the... just a spoiler. Can I give you a small spoiler?
Yeah,
that you probably already realized? Yeah, Faye becomes part of the crew. I don't remember why she becomes part of the crew, but, like, she ends up joining them, for example. And there's, like, one other character that they'll eventually pick up. But what I was going to say is, like, there's probably, like, 2 to 4 episodes that explore Spike's background. I think there's like 1 for Jet, probably 1 for Faye, right? So like there are the more character development episodes, but like this very much suited the time of like premiering on Adult Swim and putting it there because it was not punishing for you to come in and be like, oh hey, what's this show? I think I'll sit down and watch one. Whereas like if you try and just start watching Dragon Ball Z from the middle of Dragon Ball Z and you're like, yeah, who's this Goku character and like Frieza, like
we're not watching that, by the way.
You could watch it, but it would be very hard to get into. Yeah, like if our Patreon gets to some unknown amount of money, then I'll watch Dragon Ball Z. Uh,
Gotta start it first.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mentioned Venture Brothers offline, but there is a great cartoon on Adult Swim that unfortunately they just canned the last season. Although like it would take them like sometimes 4 years between seasons. Um, and the opening very much feels now both like an homage to Cowboy Bebop as well as 60s shows. And like those characters don't ever really develop. You just watch things that happen to them, right? But it's like you can always count on Dr. Venture being a certain way, and the Sons, and Brock, and
That was
but
not how my friend explained Venture Brothers to me.
how did they explain it?
Like I'd have to give potential spoilers to explain it.
I mean, I've seen it all.
But like
so-
there yeah, so like isn't there like a huge mythos or something, and like it establishes that are the brothers Hank and Dean?
yeah.
There's like shit tons of clones of them or something because Dr. Venture keeps making them and they keep dying, and like it is like it grows the world some, right?
It grows the world, but it's not. You're talking about character arcs. Growing the world is different from like if a character comes to
so
like
the characters are static even though it grows the world. Got it.
yeah. So that's like you like, and that's what I'm now putting this show in that category. But you should watch Venture
Okay.
Brothers. It's good. And there's henchmen and
How many
Dr.
thighs can I
Girlfriend.
get for that one chat? So I've tried. First of all, I've tried to watch it both like sporadically when it's been on Adult Swim, and then also because, to Chandler, friend of mine was like, "I love this show. You should watch it." And God, I tried to get him so bad to get like two giant dogs and name them Hank and Dean, just because he liked the show.
Cheston and I have dressed as characters from Venture Brothers.
Oh my God.
Last time we went to Comic-Con and dressed up
one,
every day.
it's absurdist-ish humor, which is harder for me to get into, and two, it seemed like a show that relies on its recurring in-jokes to get. Is that fair?
Yes.
So like I had this similar problem with Archer, where like I watched the pilot of Archer and I'm like, this show seems terrible. I
I had a
never
hard
like this
time with
show.
Archer. Never fully gotten into Archer.
And then like once you get past the first season, it's really funny. I shouldn't even say it doesn't take the whole first season to get funny, but by the time you're a full season in, there's enough recurring in jokes that I found it very humorous. This is what
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah,
for.
yeah, yeah.
I would not know the exact number of like whatevers I'd need to be like, oh yeah, it finally gets funny. But like the pilots did not sell me at all in that show. Whereas like, yeah.
No, Venture Brothers, there's a couple different things I pulled out of Adult Swim shows from Space Ghost, Sea Lab 2021, and Venture Brothers where I'm like, I have favorite episodes of television. Like I have that short list. And like I would actually put the pilot of Cowboy Bebop on that list now. But yeah, there's an episode of Venture Brothers getting into, I think it's the first one of season 3 or something, and I'll just go back and fucking rewatch it.
Okay. So, just so I know, the first episode was your favorite, it seems by a margin.
And I liked episode 3 a lot.
Okay, so not too big on episode 2 with the dog. She hates
no,
animals,
but
and
this
then
is the
1
thing.
and
It's
3 were
like
good.
I rate them all 10 out of 10. It's just that 1 and 3, like 1 is like 15 out of 10, and 3 is like 12 out of 10. Like they're all like really good, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm apparently both anti-cat and anti-dog. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the anti-dog one I can say is false because Meg is a dog person and has owned many a dog.
I like cats
Episode
too.
1 weakest. Oh yeah, chat. Let us know which episodes of the first 3 did you think were best, worst. 2 is the strongest because you own a corgi. Weakest for me. Yeah, I mean, like honestly, episode 1 is good, but also it's like it just feels kind of formulaic. Is kind of what.
Yeah, but it does it well.
It does it well. It does it well.
Formulaic does
I
it,
guess
like,
my point is like the difficulty and maybe why I'm trying to shirk out of us watching all 26 episodes,
which I agreed to.
Which you agreed to.
Yeah.
Is because like I start watching it and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember what happens.
Sure. Yeah.
And like there's not a whole lot for me to go on, kind of.
No, I think we should actually probably start asking Chad if they have suggestions for next show that we watch.
Oh, I was almost definitely going to say we should finally do My Hero Academia.
Okay.
Just get some like normie anime in here.
How long are the episodes and how many?
It's always the same, Meg.
They're always 20 minutes, 25?
Kinda, yeah.
They're all just half-hour show. I mean, I guess it's animated, so that's a little bit more expected. Because, like, a movie is, that's, like, or movie length is a lot more to do.
I mean, most television is also half hour unless it happens to be certain adult.
Chad is saying words in chat that I don't get.
They're saying My Hero Academia stuff.
So, but I would still be fine rounding it out to the first, like, for up to the first 5.
For what?
Shows we watch, or like what makes sense for, like, it sounds like we didn't get to all the characters in this one or something, or maybe we can also take this offline, off stream.
Oh, we can take this offline, sure. Yeah, no, it's like how much more is there to discuss? So like if we did My Hero Academia, let me check the synopsis. Like I think 3 is probably a good start to start. So like the reason why I'm saying My Hero Academia, we haven't done a shonen. It was very popular. It's a normie show. Sorry. I combined the two. So like it was like it's a very hyped up, people love the show, but it's also one that I think is good, as opposed to some like Dr. Stone is trash and you can fight me.
I will not fight you because I don't know how to fight you on that one.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just like looking at oh, okay, hold on, maybe that'll give me more.
Why don't this let me know?
Okay, like the first 3 episodes is like a good mini arc, it seems like, if we do My Hero Academia, so that'll work nicely.
So the first how many?
3. I mean, like my rule is like 3 to evaluate an anime, and like I'm hesitant to do more than 3 because then we might have too much to talk about. But then also 1 feels like not enough.
Okay, let's do 3. Sound good.
3 is just a happy number. Were there any input, questions from chat, things you'd like us to discuss?
Oh yeah.
Before we sign off, we should do more chat interaction. I'm sorry, chat. We love you guys.
Chat our friends. And plus we had to like.
I should clarify. It's not that Dr. Stone is necessarily a bad show. I just don't think it deserved all the excitement that it got. Whereas like My Hero Academia is a shonen and is very much in the tropes of the genre, but I find is like a good show, and I would not be hesitant to recommend it to someone who is interested in watching anime. Like again, it gets into preferences though, because like as you've seen from the 2 anime we watched so far, they can be very different.
Yeah.
In terms of genre and the storytelling and what it's trying to do.
And that's what I hoped for in exploring this. Yeah, okay, I want to be exposed to more subgenres as well.
Yeah. I almost wish there was more Cowboy Bebop. Like honestly, if you watch more of it on your own time and you're like, Paul, there's some shit I want to discuss.
Yeah. Oh no,
like, okay,
I already was
do
like,
an episode on that.
If I get through it all, I might just be like, let's do a little Bebop.
To preempt and be like, hey, we have to do more Cowboy Bebop because there's shit I want to talk about, and that's fine. It's just like, if you're like, Paul, tell me anime tropes from Cowboy Bebop, I'd be like, there's a dog like mascot character. That's kind of anime, but
and the dad. You said there's a dad.
Oh, I mean, I think dad extends beyond anime. Like a daddy type, a dad type, like a dad, whatever. I don't know. I don't really know how that works. I'm sorry. for phrasing it so awkwardly.
All right, good job.
Was there any
chat.
questions there? I just want to see Meg exposed to more stuff. People are agreeing. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Don't say
No one
daddy,
had like
Sean.
questions or thoughts. What? Some people I like that. I can't help that. They're entitled to their own business.
Fair.
The real problem is there's not enough Moe in Cowboy Bebop. Which dog is your favorite? There's only one dog so far. Okay, I don't think chat's giving us any good questions.
All right, chat. Go to bed.
Is it past their bedtime?
I don't know.
Me, daddy.
It's now past my bedtime.
Okay, cool.
All right, good stuff.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da.
GG's.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. GG.
I can't wait for.
Is it next week 8 or 8:30 or whatever?
Yeah, what do we want to do?
8:30.
8:30 is kind of nicer. It gives me a little bit more time between work and stuff. Although
Get all our
then
technical difficulties out.
I know. Well, we now know how to do it manually,
Doing it live manually.
and then maybe I'll fight OBS.
Oh yeah, we have to say "See you, Space Cowboy." Well, I just said it.
See you, Space Cowboy.
No, but like cool.
Oh, I can't be cool now.
Did I make it awkward for you? Did I make it impossible?
I can't be cool on demand. One is not
Hold
cool on
like,
demand.
Can you get clip art out and like you have a cigarette and then you'll throw it to me? Or
Oh
vice
God.
versa. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
No, it's subscribe
like
and
button.
send this to your friends.
I should have had a floating cigarette back and forth. That would have been so good.
It's like fucking Pong. The whole time it's like the DVD
Wait,
menu.
is this the right arm? Would I go? Would I like?
Nope, other
and
one.
then- Oh fuck! I messed. It'll go a loop whole way around. Because the problem is like, this is my microphone, so I can't like pass. Oh wait, high five.
Yeah, go Team Venture.
Oh no, Team Venture.
All right, I'm gonna end the stream. Thanks for everyone for coming and tuning in.
Yep. See you next week where we talk about My Hero Academia and the best boy, Deku-kun.
Best boy end stream. End. All right, cool, good stuff.